Hi there. Welcome to the From Lab to Launch podcast by Qualio, where we share inspiring stories from the people on the front lines of life sciences. Tune in and leave inspired to bring your life-saving products to the world.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining From Lab to Launch today. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate the podcast, and share it with your network. We'd absolutely love that. I'm Kelly from Qualio, and I will be the host of our Lab to Launch podcast going forward. My inner science nerd is definitely excited to chat with the modern pioneers and innovators in life sciences. Like today, Eugene Chan, the co-founder and executive chairman of Abpro, joins us. Gene therapy and genetics was my favorite subject in college, so talking to him about how Abpro is improving the lives of mankind facing severe and life-threatening diseases with next-generation antibody therapies was fascinating. A little more about Ian for you. He co-founded Abpro with his brother, Dr. Eugene Chan, who is the CEO. Not everyone goes into business with family, but they've done it successfully a few times, actually. Ian received an AB from Brown University and an MBA from Harvard University. You'll hear the full story coming up, but first, some quick takeaways you'll get from today's conversation. How Abpro is cutting the time to generate antibodies for testing from 1 year to 2 months. What all founders should focus on to facilitate fundraising, what Ian calls first-class science, and unique challenges a company faces when it's in high growth mode and how to prepare. All right, let's get to it. Thanks for joining. Good morning, Ian. I'm so excited to meet you.
Good morning. Likewise.
Tell me a little bit about Abpro and what you guys are up to there.
Sure. So Abpro, we are a next generation antibody therapeutics company. We started about 10 years ago in Kendall Square. So the goal has been to develop next generation antibody therapies for patients facing severe disease. And early on, we started in Kendall, we started developing our own proprietary antibody platform. And the reason we did that was because we noticed that there was a lot of genetic information, but in order to really translate the genetic information into antibody therapies, you actually had to first make the antibodies. And there was a huge bottleneck when we noticed at that time. On average, it was taking the industry over a year to generate simple antibodies to be able to test. So that's where we focused early on. So we built a platform, and the goal is to be able to deliver antibodies at industry-leading speeds in as little as 2 months against traditionally difficult targets. So that's what we did in the first 5 years. We built the platform, validated it with some of the largest companies in the industry, most large pharma companies, biotechs, academic labs were the initial adopters. And we ran over 300 campaigns during that time against some of the most difficult antibodies that were out there. And that led to a great deal. So a number of them ended up in the clinic. We were part of some programs that ultimately got approved by other companies as well. And based on that back-end success, we developed our own pipeline of therapies starting about 5 years ago. So those are focused on immuno-oncology, eye care, and most recently, infectious disease.
I was going to say, yeah. And so, of course, the topic du jour, right? So the pivot to COVID, how was that experience? How has that been going?
It's been intense. So I got to say, I think it's been intense for everybody around the world. But being one of the companies that's directly in it, I would say, had to really apply a lot of our creativity, technology, pretty much everything, our problem-solving abilities to come up with a therapy that we think will benefit many, many patients out there. So fortunately, we had a lot of experience early on working with neutralizing antibodies. So we really felt that was going to be one of the key ways to really fight COVID as a therapy. So that's been the focus. Where we're different is we've focused on what we call our future-proof antibodies. So antibodies that can withstand the test of time, that can also work against variants yet to come. So that's always been the focus. And with our platform, we've found regions where to bind on COVID that they don't look like they change over time. So these are very, I would say, difficult to reach areas and very precise areas that if you target, withstand the test of time in variants that are yet to come. So nice. Omicron was clearly a big test of that, right? So
right, absolutely, yeah. And I've lost count on which one we're up to these days. But yeah, that's amazing that so far everything is just kind of kept falling in line there from that perspective.
Yeah, Omicron, I think, was the most heavily mutated variant out there. Most, I would say, if not 95% of existing antibody therapies, including ones developed by major pharma companies, failed against Omicron. So December was definitely a huge month of suspense for us to really validate whether our strategy was working. And then the last week of December, we got great data showing
That's
that
amazing.
We're highly effective against Omicron. So that was a huge validation for the team and the strategy.
That's incredible. That's got to be that's got to feel amazing.
It felt good.
Awesome. So you talk about, the antibody, it's the Diverse Immune antibody discovery platform, correct? Can you, I know we don't want to, share all the company secrets, but can you talk a little bit about that platform and how those things translate from one antibody to the next, for example?
Yeah. So Diverse Immune platform is it basically, the name stems from the ability to create large panels of different kinds of antibodies against a target. So you want a large diversity of antibodies, and each one will have different properties to be able to do what you want to do as a therapy. So that's how the approach of the platform was built and conceived early on. Up front, we have the ability to create large panels of very, very diverse antibodies against a particular target. So hence the ability to create precision antibodies that can go after very difficult to reach areas on the target. And then the ability to really move these quickly downstream and then even engineer properties that we need onto the ultimate antibodies in the form of better binding, better dosing characteristics for the antibodies, or higher efficacy. So that's all built into the platform from beginning.
That's great. I guess for a little bit of a pivot, you and your brother co-founded this company. What's the story there? I know a lot of people maybe wouldn't go into business with with family. So tell us about how Abpro came to be.
Yeah, so it's been great with Eugene. So he's 11 months younger. So we were always very close growing up.
Yeah.
So that really helped, I think, in this particular situation. So it is quite a unique situation, I think, and it's really complementary because he brings a totally different set of skills. So there's not a lot of overlap between what we do. He's trained as a scientist, physician at Harvard. I have a business background, so there's really a complementary fit there. So in some ways, you have a great synergy there. We have 1 + 1 = 3.
Nice. Yeah, you don't see that a whole lot, but it's important, I think. I working in industry and in that sort of startup space, a lot of innovators don't. They have the science down, but they don't have that business background. And finding a complement that fits so well, that's really an advantage for you guys, I think, and especially in what I've seen in industry, that's great. So you said Abpro's been around. You had about 5 years prior to COVID, but you guys were both with other organizations prior. You were both with the same org prior. What was the catalyst there to say we're going to go do our own tech here?
Sure. Yeah, no, we got into biotech fairly early on in our careers. So we were both 2 or 3 years out of undergrad, and we launched one of the first high-speed sequencing companies in the industry.
Nice.
So that's how we started working together, in fact. So that was a company we started from scratch, scaled it up, had about 120 people, some great people associated with it, including some of the pioneers of sequencing like Craig Venter. So that's how we really gained insights into the next step. So there was a huge movement to really map the genome early on. And then there was this treasure trove of targets for novel therapies that got uncovered. But in order to translate that, you really need molecules that can really target these sequences. So that's how Abpro was actually launched, really based on that knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's interesting too, because I think, sort of in that mapping space, there's a little bit, it's definitely hardcore R&D. Now you're dabbling in that sort of early GMP and regulated space. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, it's different. It's a different but a very exciting phase to be able to get to that point where you're moving your molecule directly in the clinical trials, and ultimately treat patients. So I think the regulatory, the quality side, it's been exciting to really work through those areas. Those are necessary processes in highly strategic areas that any company really needs to be good at to be able to get therapies approved.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, at Qualio, since we provide, digital quality management systems, we always love to ask founders what your take is on today's quality and regulatory landscape. So again, with your pivot there.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very important area. It's great to see companies like Qualio come up with innovative solutions, for sure, in regulatory and also quality. I mean, I think historically it's been, if you go back even 10 years, a lot of companies had rooms filled with papers. So,
I remember those days. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Thinking about how cumbersome, that process is, right? So anything that can really speed that up, make it more efficient is a huge benefit to companies.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree. Where do you see Abpro going with your pipeline and such over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, our goal has always been to really bring modern medicine to the next level. So you look at oncology, a lot of the ways that we even still use to treat oncology patients are from many, many, many years ago. You look at surgery, radiation, chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Mankind's own immune system is amazing. We're not only the antibodies that we're generating with our own system, they're natural, they're safe. So if we can harness that, we can really move medicine to the next level. Instead of just treating symptoms, get to the root cause and fight disease that way in a much safer way too. So that's always been a focus of the company. Over the next 5 to 10 years, I think we have an opportunity to get at least 2 of these therapies approved. So starting with COVID, certainly a big problem right now, certainly huge need for patients. So get monoclonal therapies that are future-proofed out there and approved and available right away. That's certainly part of the near-term goal. And then also opportunities in our immuno-oncology and eye care. These are novel molecules that are utilizing combinations of targets that can be highly effective for patients in those areas.
Definitely. What have been some unexpected challenges with growing and scaling Abpro?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think the biggest challenge that was surprising is when your company is scaling up quickly. So just when everything's going well, when you have a lot of momentum, you have to really scale just as quickly for the company. And that can put a lot of resource demands on an organization. So I would say a lot of people always prepare for the downside, but when your things are going really well, scaling up can be a lot of work as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, the question on everybody's mind about funding.
Yeah.
What would your advice be around other entrepreneurs and trying to get some funding? And then obviously, as you've grown and scaled the way that you have, I imagine funding gets a little easier, but.
Yeah, no, I think for other founders, just focus on the science, focus on first-class science. Everything kind of flows from there, from biotech. So when that's going well, then by focusing on the fundamentals, everything kind of flows from there.
I love that word, that term, first-class science. That sums it up perfectly, I think. Nice. Awesome. Well, yeah, so we talked about funding, advice for other entrepreneurs and such. Is there any other, anything else you would like to share about the company or about your journey that you think people would like to hear?
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time for biotech in general. I think organizations have really the ability to impact mankind in a very positive way right now. So I think to all the other biotech individuals in industry, let's keep doing this. Let's keep being passionate, bring the great science. Let's bring these great therapies that can really fight disease to mankind and bring it to the next level.
I love that passion. That's why we do what we do here at Qualio too. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. This is why I do what I do. I love talking with other people who are passionate about helping change the world and the gene therapies and that sort of thing. Because you touched on digital therapies and stuff. I was a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and now while she's still with us, chemorexia. So there's if we can get to a place where those gene therapies are less overall the nuclear option, that's personally so exciting for me. So thank you for all that you guys are doing, and
You're welcome.
we really appreciate you. And if people want to follow your company's story or get in touch with you, what's the best way? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way would be to go onto our website, which is abpro.com, A-B as in boy, pro, all one word.com. And then it would be a great way to keep up to date on developments at Abpro.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of From Lab to Launch, brought to you by Qualio. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and give the show a positive review. It really helps us out. For more information about Qualio, our guest today, or to be a guest on a future episode, please refer to the show notes. Until next time.